Hello, Year Fours. I'm about to read the last chapter of The Secret Seven. Chapter 12, The End of the Adventure. 6 figures went up the snowy lane. 2 boys in dark anoraks, 2 in curious white garments and caps, a dog in draggled white coat, and a proud and beautiful horse. All the boys had gleaming white faces and looked extremely weird, but as they didn't meet anyone, it didn't matter. Peter talked hard as he went, telling of all that had happened to him and Jack. Colin and George listened in astonishment, half jealous that they too had not shared in the whole of the night's adventure. "I'm going to put Kerry Blue into one of the stables at our farmhouse," said Peter. "He'll be all right now. What a shock for those men to find him gone. And tomorrow we'll tell the police. Meet at 9:30 and collect Pam and Barbara on the way, will you? This really has been a wonderful mystery, and I do think the Secret Seven has done well. Goodness, I'm tired. I shall be asleep as soon as my head hits the pillow." They were all in bed and asleep in under half an hour. Janet was fast asleep when Peter got him. He had carefully stabled Kerry Blue, who was now quite docile and friendly. In the morning, what an excitement! Peter told his father and mother what had happened, and his father, in amazement, went to examine Kerry Blue. "He's a very fine racehorse," he said, "and he's been dyed with some kind of brown stuff, as you can see. I expect those fellows meant to sell him and race him under another name. Well, you've stopped that, you and your society, Peter." "What about getting on to the police now?" said the children's mother anxiously. "It does seem to me they ought to be after these men at once." "There's a meeting of the Secret Seven down in the shed at 9:30, said Peter. "Perhaps the police could come to it." "Oh, no, I hardly think the police would want to sit on your flower pots and boxes," said Mummy. "You must all meet in Daddy's study. That's the proper place." So at 9:30, when the 7 were all waiting in great excitement, and Scamper was going quite mad, biting a corner of the rug, the bell rang, and in walked 2 policemen. They looked most astonished to see so many children sitting around in a ring. "Good morning," said the inspector. "Oh, what's all this about? You didn't say much on the phone, sir." "No, I wanted you to hear the story from the children," said Peter's father. He unfolded the morning paper and laid it flat on the table. The children crowded round. On the front page was a big photograph of a lovely horse. Underneath it were a few sentences in big black letters. "Kerry Blue stolen. Famous racehorse disappears. No sign of his hiding place." "I expect you saw that this morning," said Peter's father. "Peter, tell him where Kerry Blue is." "In our stables," said Peter, thoroughly enjoyed the look of utter amazement that came over the faces of the 2 policemen. They got out notebooks. "This is important, sir," said the inspector to Peter's father. "Can you vouch for the fact that you've got the horse?" "Oh, yes, there's no doubt about it," said Peter's father. "You can see him whenever you like. Peter, tell your story." "We're going to take it in turns to tell bits," said Peter. He began. He told about how they'd made snowmen in the field. Then Jack went on to tell how he had gone to look for his Secret Seven badge in the field, and how he had seen the car and its trailer van. "Of course, I know now it was a horse box," he said, "but I didn't know then. I couldn't think what it was. It looked like a small removal van or something. I couldn't see any proper windows either." So the story went on, how they'd interviewed the caretaker, what he had said, how they'd tracked the car down to the field gate and up the lane again, then how 4 boys had dressed up as snowmen with Scamper and gone to watch. Then came the exciting bit about Peter and Jack creeping into the house to find the prisoner, and being caught themselves. And then Colin and George took up the tale and told how they, in their turn, went into the old house to find Jack and Peter. "Adventurous kids, aren't they?" said the inspector with a twinkle in his eye, turning to Peter's mother. "Very," she said. "But I don't at all approve of this night-wandering business, Inspector. They should all have been in bed and asleep." "Quite," said the inspector. "I agree with you. They should have told the police, no doubt about that, and left them to solve the mystery. Wandering about at night, dressed up as snowmen, I've never heard anything like it." He spoke in such a severe voice that the children felt quite alarmed. Then he smiled, and they saw that actually he was very pleased with them. "I'll have to find out the name of the owner of the house," he said, "and see if he knows anything about these goings-on." "It's a Mr. Hollycoff, 64 Haycombe Street, Covilty," said George at once. "Pam and I, found that out." "Good work," said the inspector, and the other policeman wrote down the address at once. "Very good work indeed." "I suppose they don't know the number of the car, do they?" said the second policeman. "That would help." "No," said Colin regretfully. "But the other 2 girls here know something about the horse box, sir. They took the measurements of the tyres and even drew a copy of the pattern of them. It showed in the snow. You see." "Janet did that," said Barbara honestly, wishing she hadn't laughed at Janet for doing it. Janet produced the paper and where she had drawn the pattern and taken the measurements. The inspector looked at it at once, looking very pleased. "Splendid. Couldn't be better. It's no good looking for tracks today, of course, because the snow's all melted. This is a very, very valuable piece of evidence. Dear me, what bright ideas you children have." Janet was scarlet with pleasure. Peter looked at her and smiled proudly. She was a fine sister to have, really good member of the Secret Seven. "Well, these children seem to have done most of the work for us," said the inspector, shutting his notebook. "We've got the address of the owner, and if he happens to have a horse box in his possession whose tyres match these measurements and this pattern, then he'll have to answer some very awkward questions." The police went to see Kerry Blue. The children crowded into the stable too, and Kerry Blue put his ears back in alarm, but Peter soon soothed him. "Yes, he's been partly dyed already," said the inspector, feeling his coat. "If he'd had one more coat of colour, he'd be completely disguised. Suppose those fellows meant to come along and do that tonight, and then take him off to some other stable. But of course they had to hide him somewhere safe while they changed the colour of his coat, and so they chose the cellars of the old empty house belonging to Mr. J. Hollycoff. Well, well, I wonder what he knows about it." The children could hardly wait to hear the end of the adventure. They heard about it at the very next meeting of the Secret Seven, which was called not by themselves, but by Peter's mother and father. It was held in the shed, and the two grown-ups had the biggest boxes as seats. Janet and Peter sat on the floor. "Well," said Peter's father, "Mr. Hollycoff is the owner of the horse box, and of the car as well. The police waited at their old house for the men last night, and they came. They are now safely under lock and key. They were so surprised when they found Kerry Blue gone that they hardly struggled at all." "Who does Kerry Blue belong to, Daddy?" said Peter. "The papers said he was owned by Colonel James Healy. Is he sending someone to fetch him?" "Yes," said his father. "He's sending off a horse box for him today. And he has also sent something for the Secret Seven. Perhaps you'd like to see what it is, Peter." Peter took an envelope from his father and opened it. Out fell a shower of tickets. Janet grabbed one. "A circus ticket and a pantomime ticket too. Are there 7 of each?" There were 2 lovely treats for everyone, except Scamper. "But he can have a great big, delumptious, scrumptious bone, can't he, Mummy?" cried Janet, hugging him. "Whatever are you talking about? Is that some foreign language?" asked her mother in astonishment, and everyone laughed. On the envelope was written, "For the Secret Seven Society, with my thanks and best wishes, J.H." "How very kind of him," said Peter. "We didn't want a reward at all. The adventure was enough reward. It was brilliant." "Well, we'll have to talk to you about it," said his mother, getting up. "Or else we shall find that we belong to your society, and that's the Secret 9 instead of the Secret 7. "No, it's the Secret 7, said Peter firmly. "The best society in the world. Hurrah for the Secret 7. And that is the end of our book. So a happy ending and a great adventure, I think you'll agree. And that's the last time I'm going to be reading to you, because it's going to be the summer holidays soon. But I hope you've enjoyed the books we've read over the last few weeks. We've really enjoyed reading them to you. Bye.